Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome entrepreneur, TV host, and producer Julia Melim. So, welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be doing this and to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Karen. And yeah, it's right now it's morning for me, but I know it's right with the online world. It could be
Yes,
anywhere,
you could be
anytime, anywhere
anywhere.
in the world. Yeah.
Okay. So, firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. So, can you please share with us how your entrepreneurial career as a TV host started?
Oh, I would say so. I actually have a running joke when people say, "How did you make it on TV?" And I say that it's because I was a really bad waitress. Uh, that's how it started. Because everybody always said, actors or TV, if you want to make it in film and TV, most people just end up waitressing. But I did try that in college for like a month and I was really bad at it.
Yes.
So I was like, no, I really have to make it on TV because like I don't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
But basically, I started when I was a teenager. I was in Brazil and I was modeling. My first job ever was Elite Models, and I was doing runway shows. And then from there, I did a lot of auditions for commercials. I did a few commercials as well. And then I booked a job on TV. And that was my first time, being on camera. And so literally my first job was being on cameras, and it just became something that I became so comfortable with it that I just don't know how to do anything as well as as being a TV host. So I just have to make it work.
Amazing. So you're not only a TV host, but you're also a writer, producer, actress, and holistic business coach for women. So can you share with us more about this, and was expanding into these other specialities an organic process for you?
Sure. Yeah, so I became well known for as a TV host for Hollywood TV in New York. I was the New York correspondent, and I was working a lot on the red carpet, interviewing celebrities, covering film festivals, film premieres. I met all these celebrities that everybody talks about, like Ryan Gosling, Bradley Cooper, George Clooney, all these directors, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Martin Scorsese. So it was really like a dream job.
Yes.
And I did that for 5 years straight. And it got to a point that I just realized that I didn't know why I was feeling this anxiety, or I just wasn't as fulfilled as I was before. And that's
Yes.
when I started looking, for the holistic approach. I started realizing, okay, what am I doing wrong, or what am I not doing that I could be doing, to be happy, because I should be happy, and I look around, it's like my life is great. It looks good on the outside, and I just wanted to feel good on the inside as well, because
Yes.
I just look good for everybody else, but I wasn't happy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of the times we have a life that it's for other people, or that looks good, looks good on social media. It looks good for our family. It looks good for our friends. But in reality, I wasn't really happy. And I started, realizing that there are things that I could start doing. One of them was meditation. So this
Yes.
was about 5 years ago. And honestly, I've been meditating like straight for, the last probably like 4 or 5 years, that every day I wake up, it's like brushing my teeth. I wake up, I meditate even before I brush my teeth. I wake up, meditate, and then brush my teeth, and then have breakfast. So it just became part of my morning routine. And through the meditation, I started going into other things like yoga, breathing exercises, affirmations, journaling. And I got really connected with the work with Abraham Hicks, that,
Yes.
from Ask and It Is Given. So I started researching a lot and listening a lot to her about law of attraction and high vibrations, and how to increase your vibration from the moment you wake up, and how it's so important that you have to do that as like your first priority every day when you wake up. So I've been following that for probably the last 2-3 years. That was the first time I actually saw Abraham live, because I was working on cruise ships, I started a couple years ago, and she was in Miami. She has a house, or I think it's like near Miami, but it's in Florida. But she has a house in Florida, and she was doing a live lecture. Remember when we could go to those
Yes.
live
Which
live
feels a million years ago.
I know, there's like an audience and a stage, and she was talking on stage.
Yeah.
It seems like another lifetime. Yeah, so I saw her live and I got really inspired, and I realized, well, I should be doing this. This is really my number one priority. How I feel, I have to feel good, whatever I'm doing. And another thing that I really like that she says, that you can never have a rewarding, if you don't have a rewarding journey, you're not going to have a rewarding destination.
No.
And I've realized that is so true. With like relationships, with a job, with where you live, like it has to be good every single day. Otherwise it doesn't get good if the journey isn't good,
No. Exactly.
So that's what led me to holistic coaching, because I realized I wasn't the only one, and there were a lot of people struggling, especially women. And that's when I started with the Feed Your Soul Challenge to help out other women out there who are also dealing with, burnout, or struggling with, just being happy on their daily lives, or, during the pandemic as well, isolation or anxiety or depression. And that's how I created the Feed Your Soul Challenge, based on this holistic approach that you really have to see yourself as like a whole being. You can't separate, career or personal life. You just have to be happy and feel good, first and foremost.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say some of your biggest lessons have been within your career?
In my career?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's been many, but like what stands out for you? What significantly stands out for you?
Okay, I would say, I think I was listening to a podcast, or maybe like watching someone talk about that the other day, about patience. And then I started thinking about that, like what I could have done differently in my career. And I would say definitely patience is a big thing, to just be more patient with where you are.
Yes.
And not only patient, but I think more present. Okay, so if I could look back and tell my younger self, what can you do differently? Like there isn't something that I would say, oh, you did this, like it was so wrong, or, nothing like that. But I would say more like, just enjoy yourself more. Like be more present where you are right now and enjoy yourself more. Like really like, pay yourself on the back for your victories, because a lot of the times I feel like I was so, especially when I was a teenager, like, really like a go-getter in a good way. But at the same time, I feel like I wasn't, like I got so many opportunities and my life was already so wonderful. I had this, as a teenager, I definitely did not have like a usual, teenager years, because I was like going to these runway shows, and I haven't really had a usual trajectory. I guess my journey has been sort of unusual. But, I got to do a lot of things that a lot of people don't get to do, and just appreciate it more.
Yeah.
So just be more grateful. I think that is what I would say, like, but from the very first opportunity, because I was always looking ahead, like, oh, this is great, but I want to be in a bigger show. This is great, but I want to be, more famous. Or this is great, but I want to get more gigs, or I want to get paid more.
Yes.
And we just get stuck in this thing, that this like wheel that you can always get more, right? But it always starts with appreciating where you are and what you have, and just look how much I've accomplished, look how amazing this opportunity is, look how great my life is. So I think being more grateful is what I would take away. It's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were born and raised in Brazil. Was being in the entertainment industry something you always knew you wanted to do?
Yes, I always wanted to be in entertainment industry. I always wanted to be an actress. And since I was literally 4 years old, I would write plays for my family.
Mm.
And we had these big family gatherings, like summer vacation at my grandparents' house.
Mm.
And we would perform like as little kids. I know you're like 4, yeah, but like 4 or 5, I'm totally serious. Like as little kids, I would like enlist all my cousins to perform with me. And I would direct them. I would say, oh, okay, you know how to do this, you do that. Like dance, you're gonna dance. I was like directing all my cousins around the family.
Yes.
And you can play the piano, you do that. Because everyone has like a little talent or some class that they were going to. And from even that age, like we used to perform in the living room and at the house. We would make popcorn and like sell them tickets to their own living room. It was hilarious.
That's amazing.
I know.
Fabulous. But that's how it all
I love that
starts.
my family went along with it. They were like, okay, you want to be an actress, I guess this is it.
Yeah, for sure. So you've worked with some of the biggest TV networks and on Broadway. What would you say has given you the edge over others? And do you think also that speaking other languages has worked to your advantage?
Yeah, I definitely believe that, being from Brazil, I did have a unique background, and it
Mm.
definitely helped me in my career to get the opportunities that I did get
Mm.
because, I speak Spanish, Portuguese, and English, and learning English, even like having, that bilingual background because I started learning in Brazil, it definitely gave me an edge to be able to come onto the US because I got a scholarship to go to school here. That's how I moved to the US. And then, the opportunities that I got after that too, even working on cruise ships, when I started working as a TV host for the cruise line, I was working with Royal Caribbean and Celebrity Cruises. And, one of the biggest things that they had an itinerary that was the Mediterranean, and they wanted someone that could speak Portuguese, Spanish, and English because we're visiting all these countries.
Yes.
So I was literally, traveling all over the world, which was another dream come true because it was definitely on my bucket list that I wanted to travel the world for a
Yes.
year. And I ended up traveling the world for 2 years on a cruise
Wow.
ship.
Amazing.
And I got to visit all these different countries. And definitely that's something that, I visited, I think I was counting it as over like 33 countries in the last like 2 years.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
definitely speaking other languages was definitely a huge plus. And if I didn't speak English, I wouldn't be where I am now. And that is another funny story too, because I remember when I was about 10 years old, that goes to show that, the decisions that you make when you're a kid or a teenager, they really like can take you to different paths in your life.
Yes, of
Because I
course.
remember asking, my mom, like, please take me out from English classes. I'll do anything, but just take me out of English classes. I'll never use it. And she was like, no, you're going to keep going to English classes. You're definitely going to use it. Trust me. One day you're going to thank me.
For sure.
And I
Amazing.
was definitely, I stand corrected because I definitely, I thank her for that because thankfully I stayed in English classes and I'm here now. So none of this would have been possible if I didn't speak other languages.
Absolutely. So you've worked and covered many red carpet events and premieres. So can you share with us what that experience was like?
Oh yeah, it's kind of surreal to be really honest with you.
Yeah.
Like being on the red carpet, it's such a surreal moment because what you see once the interview is done and ready to go, all edited and everything, is not the whole experience, of what is happening when we're on the red carpet, because sometimes we're there for, I don't know, 3-4 hours and you get, like a 5-minute or 15-minute interview or like a good 15 minutes, but it's like anything that you're filming, like, of course, like you film for a lot longer or you wait a lot longer. But I think the difference is that on the red carpet, you're not filming the whole time. There's a lot of waiting that goes on. So
Yes.
a lot of the times we're waiting for people to come around. And then when that moment is on, when you get your 5 minutes, this is literally like those 15 minutes of fame or 5 minutes of fame, you really have to be on like 100%. So I think I learned how to be really focused, like tunnel vision, immediately, like as soon as I need it, because sometimes I'll be waiting for an hour and then they're like, okay, George Clooney is ready, talk to him. And I'm like, oh, hi, okay. And then you have to like be 100% ready and there and present and ask all the questions you can and get a great interview in those 5 minutes, and there is no take two.
No.
Because it's like a lot, that's another thing that I don't know if everybody knows this, but it doesn't work that way, that you do a interview and then you're like, hey, George, can you just come back and can I ask that again? That doesn't
like
exist.
You get one shot at it.
Yeah, exactly. You get one shot at it. The lighting has to be perfect. The audio has to be perfect. And you have to be 100% on and with all your questions.
Yeah.
So I think I learned how to be, on as soon as I need it, immediately. And of course, just being on the red carpet was a great experience to just work with all those amazing people, at the top of their field. I think I was learning from the best. So I did learn a lot about, my career, how to have that work and life balance. A lot of the times also what I've noticed is that the celebrities themselves, they're very, balanced and they, even though they do get a bad rap, sometimes in the media, but I would say that just talking to them, they're like very, down to earth, like most of them, I would say 90%, very down to earth and just very conscious and conscientious of this need of having downtime and feeding your soul and taking the time for self-care. I think because they've been on the spotlight for so long, they know that they need to take care of themselves so they can keep it up,
Of course.
So that was like a big thing for me too, when I started talking to them more in depth and asking those questions, like, how do you stay sane, in this crazy world, or this, red carpet world, glamour and fame and all of that. And that, I'm sure it can drive someone a little bit crazy. Just being on the red carpet, is stressful sometimes. So can you imagine it, like being on the spotlight 100% of the time? So
and you have to be at your best all the time. Like there's no room for complacency or for error, really.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's like every day, is like being on the spotlight. Every day is like being on the red carpet, basically. So I think you just have to become a better version of yourself. We talk a lot about that, just be your best self. But honestly, when you are on the spotlight, and I think that would be, the biggest thing that I learned, that you have to be the best version of yourself. It's not just, oh, I have to look like I'm the best version of myself, or I have to look nice, or I have to seem like a good person. You actually have to transform into a better person that you can inspire others. And I think that is the biggest artist that they're really aware of, that power that they have to inspire other people and impact other people, like Oprah, that you can use like all your impact and all your leverage, your fame or your exposure towards impacting people in a good way, that you can make people's lives better. I think
absolutely.
that's the best thing that can come out of it. And the smartest people and the best artists and actors and TV hosts and on-camera personalities, I think they're very aware of that. And that's basically who I'm aspiring to be, and who inspires me too, that it's not just about being on the spotlight, but really what can you do once you are on the spotlight.
For sure. So I want to talk to you about your holistic coaching. You did touch on this earlier. Can you please share with us what makes you different in terms of your approach, and have you got some examples of results that you have achieved with some of your clients?
Yeah, so thank you for asking about that. So that's something that I started noticing, that is a need especially for women, the need for self-care. And that's where I would say that I stand out with, Feed Your Soul and the Feed Your Soul Challenge, because a lot of the times like we just talked about that, like being your best self. Like I feel like women especially have this pressure of, oh, I always have to look my best. I have to be my best. and not just, but I'm talking about being your best on the inside. When I say be your best, I don't mean like always wear makeup, not that you can wear makeup if you want to, but just like not taking away that pressure from women, and to just allow them to be themselves and accept them for who they are, and just like realize that it's really about taking care of yourself, accepting yourself, and taking the time for self-care. I think a lot of people are realizing that now more than ever, that you really need to take care of your mental health, your wellness, and your well-being. That has to be your top priority.
Yes.
So feeding your soul has to be your number one on your list.
Absolutely. So when you are working, I'm sort of flipping between the two, but when you're working on premieres and covering some of the biggest stars in the world, how do you mentally prepare yourself for these types of events?
How do I mentally prepare myself? I don't think you can fully mentally prepare yourself, to be really honest.
Yeah.
I did my best, but that's how I created Feed Your Soul too. But, as I'm preparing, let's say for like a film premiere or a red carpet event, well, first of all, like I would research, the main, star or celebrity that I'll be interviewing, then create questions about that, and then also research, about the movie and their background, what they're working on, what is next for them, what are they preparing, what they have in the works, because people always like to be asked on what's next or what they're working on as much as they like to be asked on what they have done. That's one thing that I've noticed too, because a lot of the times I would ask, in the beginning, I would ask them like about what they've done, and they would always say, oh, I'd like to talk more about what I'm doing right now. So they're very aware of that. So definitely like find out what they're, what are they interested in the moment, what they're working on in that period of time. And then I also do some research on like the whole cast and the directors, the crew, like how, the history behind the film, like the background. So definitely research is very important. But once you've done the research, you really have to take your mind off of it. It's like studying for a test. You have to have the confidence that you know what you're doing and you've done your research, or even like knowing your lines, in a play or in a movie. You do all your research, you memorize your lines, but once is the time to deliver it, you have to have the confidence in yourself that you know what you're doing, and you've done the research and you're ready and you're prepared, and then just go for it. Because a lot of it is just standing up for yourself and just like holding on, to that moment and holding yourself together basically. But hold your own is like a big thing. You have to be able to hold your own on the red carpet. So I would say that's like the biggest thing. And also like if needed, in case, you have to know, like, BS your way out of any situation. So yeah, like for like what is like, pardon my French, but it's true. Like you have to like, you have to be there once you're alive. It's like being on a, live theater, because every time that you're on camera, you're shooting like a live interview basically. It's like shoot to live. So there is, like I said, there is no take two. So we're all like live on camera. So whatever happened, you have to be able to improvise. So, that's where my acting background came in, and my improv background, my stand-up comedy background, because, you can always laugh it off, make a joke, make people feel comfortable. It doesn't have to be perfect. And just go along with it, embrace it and go along with it. So that's a big thing. Like, don't know that you don't have to be perfect, and no one's perfect. So
of course,
it's never going to be perfect. Just be present, keep going, and go along with it, whatever happens. Never
absolutely.
Stop. Keep going.
What would you say some of your biggest career highlights have been?
Ooh, the biggest career highlights. I would say, okay, the first one that comes to my mind is covering the Tony Awards.
Wow.
That was a big announcement, and it was like a huge shift for me when I really felt like, all right, I'm a professional, like I'm really doing this, I made it. I'm covering the Tony Awards. And then, you know, the Academy Awards. I also did the Academy Awards ceremony for the East Coast ceremony. So that was a big deal. And I've been to the West Coast ceremony too, you know, the press room and everything, the winner's room. There was one specific moment when Helen Mirren won the Tony Awards and I was in the winner's room. It was one of those moments I just looked around and I was like, wow, this is my life. This is amazing. I'm in the winner's room at the Tony Awards with Helen Mirren, like having champagne. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Like you just have like those moments that's what I'm talking about. You have to have those moments that you stop and you look around and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. This is my life. This is great. You know, you have to appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So I would say that is like a highlight. Obviously, you know, any film premiere that I cover, like it's different. And, you know, speaking with Steven Spielberg, I would say that is also a big highlight for me because, you know, I've looked up to him as a director for so long. You know, I wanted to do entertainment because I watched Saving Private Ryan. I mean, I wanted to, you know, work in the Hollywood film industry and work with filmmakers and celebrities and come to Hollywood and New York and, you know, all of that. I think all from, not only from Steven Spielberg, but he's definitely a huge influence on my generation. And I think a lot of generations of filmmakers and actors and everyone in the entertainment industry. So just speaking with him and making it personal, you know, because when I talk to him, it's really about making that personal connection with anyone, no matter who they are. If they're Steven Spielberg or, you know, your neighbor or someone across the street, it's just like about having that human connection with another person.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I always wanted to get something. Every time I interviewed somebody, I always wanted to get something out of them that no one had ever asked them, and that I never had heard them talk about before. And one of the things that stands out for me with Steven Spielberg was when I asked him about his kids. And he said that his kids and bedtime stories are what inspires him to create the best scripts.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that to me, like, you know, those moments to me are magical. That's what, you know, stands out to me and like makes me keep going because it's just, that's what makes it worth it.
Absolutely. You know? So that leads me to the next question. COVID-19 has turned our world upside down and inside out. So how has this impacted you and how have you had to adapt? And then within leading into that is obviously the entertainment industry has been dramatically impacted during this time as well. So how do you believe the industry will be moving forward over the next couple of years? And do you believe it will recover?
Well, I feel like nothing will ever be the same.
Yeah,
to be really honest. I don't think it can ever be, you know, the same thing that it was before because it's just, it's a different world, you know, that we're living in right now. Yeah. So every time someone says, oh, I'm going to wait until things go back to normal.
Yeah, that's no such thing.
There's no such thing. Like the world is in constant motion. It's dynamic. The universe is dynamic. It's been like that since, you know, Earth was created, since the Big Bang, since the dinosaurs, you know. So every time someone says that to me, I always like, it makes me think of the dinosaurs. Like, well, I bet the dinosaurs were thinking the same thing, you know, before they were extinct. I feel like it's all about adaptation. Like you said, it's about evolution, you know, adaptation. Yeah. Every time there's a big event around the world, especially this, you know, we haven't had a World War III. So this is kind of like our World War III right now, but we're fighting it, you know, just about looking inward, and we're fighting with ourselves because it's basically about looking inward and changing who you are, changing yourself and adapting. Yeah. So sometimes those are the hardest battles because you can't blame it on anyone else.
No.
You have to adapt yourself and just really pivot, you know, change it into something else or reinvent yourself. And it has definitely affected my life, like directly, because I was on a cruise ship when I found out about the shutdown, the
Yeah.
lockdown, and cruises were banned. So we actually saw on Twitter that cruises were banned. That was the first thing we heard, from Trump. Trump tweeted that there was like a federal shutdown for all the cruises in the US. And basically I was on a cruise like as the shutdown happened. So it completely changed overnight. My whole life changed overnight. The cruises were canceled. I stopped working. I was on a cruise ship for 30 days on lockdown because we had to be on quarantine. We had no idea how to get off the ship because of all the regulations and because of, if even like the cruise line itself, like what they would allow us to do and what would be decided. And so it took us 30 days to be able to get off the ship, and I couldn't even take a commercial flight. So I knew I couldn't go to Brazil because of all the border regulations. I couldn't take a commercial flight, and I had my car, thankfully, in the port. So basically the only thing I could do is drive, and I drove from Miami to New York.
Wow.
To go on the apartment that I had before I was on the ship. That's where I stayed before I went on the ship. So thankfully I did have a place to stay, and I had friends there, who welcomed me, and I'm very grateful for that. So I know how lucky I was to have a place to go and be on quarantine and, get off the ship. But I definitely did have to go through this whole journey of getting to New York, in the middle of a pandemic. And then I stayed there for 6 months. And then now I just did an even longer drive that I never thought I would be able to do it on my own. But I've been crossing a lot of bucket list items, I feel like, this year. So I did a whole cross country trip on my own from New York to Las Vegas. And I just relocated to Las Vegas.
Wow.
So my whole life completely shifted. There's nothing that is the same since the beginning of the lockdown.
For sure.
Yeah. And now, career wise, and then also now, I've been doing more like work from home, media consulting, the holistic coaching, so I can help other women. The Feed Your Soul Challenge, that is something that also came out of the lockdown. I just finished writing a book that I wrote about all my experience in the lockdown as well. And it's called Feed Your Soul Now, Last Call to Your Dream Life.
Yes.
So all these things, and I'm launching my website this year. So it's just a lot of changes, a lot of things that I had to change in myself and my how I approach my career to make it work. Because like it's basically like burn the boats, right? Like people use that expression, burn the boats, like metaphor. But in my case, it was literally burn the boats. Like the boats are shut down. We have to get off the boat. Yeah. So there was like no looking back, nothing to go back to because it doesn't exist anymore. So it's basically, okay, what's next? Keep moving forward and, heading west. And now everything that I'm doing has been online and, doing partnerships to start media consulting and public speaking, doing the challenge and the holistic coaching, like you said. So everything has been different, but, I believe in the universe, and I believe that things are happening as, they should be, as far as like, so we can learn things that we need to learn. And it has been a very challenging year. I'm not gonna lie, like it's been a very challenging year, but also it's been a year that I grew so much as a person, just looking back now, I can't believe it's December already, but I just feel like I grew so much as a person. I was forced to look at things I didn't want to look at, like confronting myself, like my fears, my limits, and really expanding into being a better and higher version of myself, and realizing, okay, these are all these possibilities here for you. Go for it. All these things that I was putting off that, I had thought about it before, but I didn't go for it. And then now it was basically like getting a little push from the universe. Like, there you go. Now it's your only option. You have to do it. Go do it.
I think it was like that for a lot of people.
Exactly. It's like,
So,
no, there is no other option now. Like
no,
you're gonna have to work from home, and that's what you're gonna do.
exactly.
Exactly.
So, what are the three key pieces of advice you would give to other entrepreneurs who are looking to pursue a career in your industry? And what would your advice be? And what legacy would you like to leave?
I would say just do it. Not to steal Nike's slogan or motto, but
Mm.
that it's so true. Like in this industry, like I hear so many people talk about things that they want to do. And in the meantime, I've done it already. Like, and I went around the planet Earth like 3 times.
Yes.
Like literally. Like I'm just like, just do it. Stop talking about it.
Yes.
I feel like there's so many people, and sometimes even I'm including myself too. Like sometimes, like I'll catch myself like saying something like, "Oh, I want to do this," and then it's like, you know what, just put it on your goal list, write it down and get it done. Like, stop talking about it. Like sometimes I'll tell myself, like, you're not allowed to talk about this to anybody else until you finish it. Yes. Like you're not allowed to say, I want to do something. You're allowed to tell people, I've done it. Yes. I did it. Or look, I just finished. I launched it, here it is. Here's the work. Because I feel like so many people, especially in entertainment, they focus so much on getting the job. Like, oh, I want to get the job. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do a podcast, right? I want to do a website. I want to write a book. And it's like, well, just go and do it. They don't focus on the doing of it. And then nothing gets done. So they've been talking about what they want to do, for 10 years, but they could have done it already. And then they can market it, I think it was James Cameron who said, I never met him, by the way, but I saw one of his interviews, but he was talking about how, so many people, they say, oh, I want to direct. And he said, well, just go and direct. It's so easy nowadays. I mean, if you have a phone, you can direct a movie, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then you can be a TV host. You can have a channel on YouTube. Like, just do it. Like, okay, it's not going to be the best thing ever, but perfectionism like kills so many dreams, because you just wanted to be perfect, and then you don't do anything, and it just like makes you get stuck and not move forward. So I feel like just when you start doing it, you're going to get better at it. So what James Cameron said is that if you just do something, if you just direct any movie, like even if it's with your family in your kitchen or your cousin, whatever it is that you do, I'm paraphrasing, I know this is not his exact quote, but you can call yourself a director. And from then on, you're just negotiating, your rate and the location. So I thought that was genius. It's like, it's so true. Like, start from your living room, shoot a movie in your living room, like start a show. And like nowadays, everything is on Zoom. It's virtual. It's giving you so many opportunities for people to get out there, get their ideas out there, and, just put it out there. And then from then on, you're going to get more experience. You're going to get feedback. You can only get better, and it goes back to also just to come back to like a personal story, something that someone told me when I was first starting out as an actress in LA. And, everyone says, well, if you're an actor, if you're a TV host, you have to have a reel. And, I think it was a casting director, well, how can I have a good reel? Because, I want to get more experience before I have a reel, like get, better or more experience, or be featured in, more shows, or before I put it on my reel. And what can I do to have a good reel? And I thought it was the best answer that she told me was, well, if you want a really good reel, get a bad one first.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so genius, that it's like, oh, great. So I just went and I got a bad reel that I was like, okay, I know this reel is not going to be great, but at least I have a reel and I can say I'm an actor, I have a reel, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say like that is my advice for anyone who wants to start in the industry, is get a bad reel. Like, get a bad reel first. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like really bad, if it doesn't look great, just get a bad reel and then build up from there. It's gonna, I promise you, it's gonna get better every year. if you have a bad reel, it will get better every year until you have a really good one.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
promise you that.
So what legacy would you like to leave?
Ah, what
How would
legacy?
you
That's
like
a
to
big
be
question.
remembered?
I would really like, right now in writing this book, like it just made me look at how I can impact other people's lives. So I feel like the biggest lesson is really how many people have you been able to impact and help others, and how can you serve them. So I feel like really that is the biggest legacy and what I'm working towards. If I could just say, that I impacted other people's lives and changed their lives for the better, I think that would be a win.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for joining us today. And if people would like to connect with you, what are the best platforms to do so?
Oh, great. Oh, thank you so much for having me, Karen. This has been great. I love sharing all these stories, and I would love to talk to you more, and to anyone who's listening to the podcast right now and watching this. My Instagram is Julia Melim Real. Melim, Melim, and Rio, just like get real, Real. So Julia Melim Real. And that's my Facebook page as well, Julia Melim Real. And I created that because it's something that it can work in Portuguese and English because it's the same word. We just say differently. It's real in Portuguese and real in English, so it works.
Yeah.
Or real, which is like how it would be the Portuguese pronunciation. But anyways, if you're watching, I'll say it in Portuguese now, is Julia Melim Real. That's Portuguese.
Yeah.
And Julia Melim Real English. So
Amazing.
You can find me. And my website that I'm launching, so I'll be launching it this year. I'm trying not to make too many promises, but that is something I have to do before the year's over. So I have the next 30 days. I have December. So it's juliamelim.com. So you can look me up there. And you can always Google me to find out more of what I'm up to and, what I'm working on. But yeah, my website will be coming up soon, juliamelim.com. And check out this podcast. I also want to do more podcasts. So that's something new for me, and more podcasting and blogging ahead.
Yes.
That's my goal before the end of the year.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we can have you back in the future to see where you are in your journey. But thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, Talent Finders. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I love talking more with you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.